Hey everyone, this is an open door. Last time I checked, people were still calling me Cindy. This is January 3rd, 2025, and we're in our Friday 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time program entitled Reality Check, where we're using Helen Hamilton's book Reality Check to invite a direct experience. Pat's going to read for us today, but first I do have a 7 minute Helen Hamilton video, as has been our practice. Um, and without further ado, I was going to play it. Here we go.
So I wanted to look at a particular way we have of thinking as human beings. And in my own journey, it really was overcoming these three ways of thinking that took the time. So if you can examine those briefly, and hopefully this will, if you take this in, it'll shortcut that pathway to awakening. So first of all, when I came to this journey, I'd heard that there was something real about me that was invisible and intangible. And I would hear teachers say things like, it's all around you right now, it's everywhere you look, and all of that. And it was very frustrating because I couldn't seem to find it. You know, since that point later, I came to understand that I could access it through a sense of silence, a sense of stillness, consciousness, the awareness that is looking at everything. But the reason it took me so long was because this first thought that was very well believed, and it is in all of humanity, and that is that what we can see and experience with our senses, what we can hear, all of that, what we can touch, is more real than what we can't experience. And so forms are more real, and they have priority over something that is formless. And even my belief, my deep-seated belief, was that something that is invisible and intangible equaled dead. You know, so I was either here as a form or I didn't exist at all. And that the invisible and intangible wasn't real, that it didn't have any particular importance to it. And if we look at humanity in general, we can see that sort of idea prevalent. Even when we go looking for God, we look for a person, an entity, someone that lives, you know, up in the sky, some guy, some personified version of that. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because with this idea in play, it's very hard to keep bringing attention to that which is invisible and formless: silence, stillness, presence, beingness, consciousness. If our undercutting belief is that the formless silence is less valuable, less important than the things that we're seeing and the forms that we're experiencing and all of that. So at the second point, when I began to see that, I began to move beyond that to realize actually the formless might be, and here comes a second way of thinking that we get stuck on. The formless might be more important than the forms. So we go through this stage of neti. I'm not this body, I'm not these thoughts, I'm not these emotions, I'm not the things I see in my life. I'm formless, invisible, silence, and that's the most important thing. And all of this manifestation is kind of just something that's happening. It's nothing to do with me. And of course, that's a valuable place to hang out in our awakening for some time, but it isn't going to be, it's not going to allow us to see the fullness of reality. So we flipped from believing forms are the most important here, and that formless is irrelevant, to the other way around. Formless is most important. and form is almost irrelevant and doesn't matter, and temporary and transient and all of that. So the willingness to make that shift took me a long time in my thought process. And when I began to do this, it became easy to put attention on the silence, to sit in meditation, because I was valuing that more than the thoughts that were going on in my during my meditation and all of that. And then that felt good for a while, and I got very good at meditation, and still my life was kind of screwed up though in the rest of it. And this led to this third and final kind of way of seeing, which again took a big readjustment. But what took the time in that was really this idea that there's this resistance to seeing it. So the third idea is that form and formless are the same thing, the same one being, that the invisible consciousness, presence, silence is so powerful that it can show up either as nothing at all or as everything, but they are not inherently two, they are one. Even to say they assumes plural, but what can you do in language? That there's only one thing and it can show up as form or formlessness. And at each stage along this way, it took me a while to work up the willingness to shift how I think about reality. I thought I knew what reality was. It's this physical world I could see. And then I was sure it was only this invisible world that I couldn't see. And then eventually I had to admit it's both. And at both, the idea of both falls away. Their duality ends there. Still seems to be, but... And the reason I'm saying this is so that if you are finding that you're stuck at any point of suffering, it could be because you put more willingness into, do I need to change the way I'm thinking about myself, about reality here? And what happens when I do that? Does it have to be a long drawn out process where I suffer and then finally come to some recognition that my thoughts need to change? Or can I preemptively look at where my thinking is static and look at how I can come to change that? So this was a major shortcut to awakening for me, major, when I got this. It's not really the things that I'm thinking about. It's my willingness to change those ideas. And in awakening, the next stage of our awakening deepening quite often includes a total 180-degree shift in how we're thinking, especially for those first two stages, for want of a better word. There aren't really any stages, and as human beings, we're conditioned, programmed to find out the right thing to believe in, to think, the right way to think, and hold on to that with everything that we've got. And that's going to trip us up in our awakening. So can you re-examine where you're holding on to something that seemed very true at one point and now needs to be challenged and even let go of? And in fact, the exact opposite may be true than what we believed.
Righty then. So, opening it up in case anybody wants to share anything at all before I hand things over to Pat. Me? Oh, please, Alka.
I just wanted to say that I found this video very good because I was struggling a little bit with her saying that the form, the body was not important and there was only formless. And over here, she specifies that they are both important. So that sits with me much better than that the body is non-existent or not important. So just wanted to say that.
So, I'm a little bit in awe, and I'll tell you why. I never watch these clips before I play them here. I don't know if people realize this. I don't watch the Thursday YouTube videos before they're assigned. I mean, I look for it, I wait for the hit, and I publish it. We're doing all this together. But the thing that she said at the end is, this idea of being willing to question, you know, what your current belief structure is, maybe you're wrong. Can you, and what it takes to let go of who you think you are. Um, Beginning today, I'm facilitating at Awakening Together, or an MPP course called Jesus in the New Testament. And this morning I was listening to a 1 hour intro, looking around. Rana watched, listen to it at some point. But key in this video was Regina was just pointing to the baggage, the difficulty that people have with the Bible because of the baggage of what they were taught. And any which way that you're looking at it, when you accept that it's a story and that every character within that story is you could step out of what you know and allow for something new. So there was that. And then I was also reading the guides, the Book of Freedom, and in the Book of Freedom, literally the permission, or the place where I am as of right now, I could pull and tell you what I'm reading, but the whole concept of where I was in my contemplation was, am I willing to drop the known? Can I let go of the known? Because that is the only way I could be created in a higher frequency, is if I'm willing to let go of everything that I'm currently using to continue to recreate at this level. The only way I could do that is if I'm willing to step out, completely step out of what the mind knows, culturally, historically, even from the books, and allow a new vibration to fill me. And I heard her say, love that. So I'm a little bit in awe of how all these different voices seem to be telling Cindy, whatever she is, exactly the same thing right now. William's in the house. You'll have to unmute though so we can hear what you're saying. There you go.
I love listening to her, and I love that feeling I get because, it's like grabbing hold of the next thing that, okay, that makes more sense. Oh, that makes more sense. Okay, that makes even more sense. But what occurs to me is also that willingness to not know becomes what I know. I turn it into that next thing. And it occurs to me that, wow, not only do I know the form, know the formless, know the oneness, and that I don't know. It's like I just simply notice that I keep turning whatever it is into, oh, and that's what I think she really is pointing at for me, is that, oh, even that, even that, even that. So it's a different level of I don't know, because I see that I turn the I don't know into at least I know that. So anyway, I just got to say this is kind of a process that I'm observing in myself of, wow, as soon as I know, then I have to peel, let go. Now I peel, let go that, let go that. Just this ongoing thing. Just need to say that.
Awesome. Thank you. Heard Regina say the same thing this morning, by the way, in her words, saying, when she contemplated the New Testament and then wrote, the Holy Spirit's interpretation of the New Testament. And then this is a number of years later that she did this audio, and she said, now I'm going back to the New Testament to create this MPP class, and I'm having an entirely new experience. I wasn't able to have it originally. I had too much baggage, too many beliefs, and now it's brand new. And then I'm gonna pull this up because it's interesting, with all that being said, how this chapter begins. So unless does anybody else want to say anything, or should we start reading.
I just there's something, and I can't remember where it is in the course that says, let go of everything that you believe or thought and about yourself or what everything is, and come with open hands, or it must be empty hands. But so I was searching for that, and instead found this: heaven itself is reached with empty hands and open minds, which come with nothing to find everything and claim it as their own.
All right, here we go.
Chapter 5. The difference between the subject and an object. Here is a basic error or assumption in our thinking process. It's interesting how that video was totally about this. I know, quote, I know what subject means, and subjective can include objects inside it that are separate from it. I have fully seen what it means to be the subjective self. I know what the self with the capital S is. Here is the fact and what actually is true. True subjectivity excludes any possibility of objectivity, and there are no objects in the subjective. We think we are an object that comes and goes. What we actually are is pure subjectivity devoid of any objects. The subject and the object are the same thing. They are one.
Does anybody need to sit with that and talk about it? All right, guess not.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I think I'm an object that comes and goes. What that says to me is where I have that illusion that I'm a body. Because I don't, like, the awareness doesn't come and go. It's always here. So that's what I'm feeling with that first sentence. And that's the only thing there really is. Anything that arises and goes is still, like she just said, the form and the formless are the same thing. It's just part of that one thing going on. So I'm saying that out loud to teach myself, and I'm looking forward to replies. Thank you.
William.
Well, isn't that what she was saying the last time you played her? There's no I. The young man said, there's no I, no I. What I get now is that I am, but no I. It's just this amness. Anyway, that's just what occurs to me, is that, again, something beyond object and subject. And I think of our book, Dissolving the Ego, somehow that dissolving both. And now what do you have? Nothing.
My interpretation of that or the way that video was informing me from last week was not so much as assuming that there is no I, but living in the quiet searching for it. Where is this I that insists she's separate? And just be in the looking for it, not allow the mind to tell me it doesn't exist. And where I am with what was here, like what we just read in my dyad this morning, there was a distinction made in my space between having a good life and being the flow of life, and really being in the space of recognizing that life is what flows here and now, And the moment I cling to some aspect of it, there's a piece that says it's something other than the flow of life. And I'm ready to accept that that can't be true because nothing is outside of consciousness. And going, quietly watching as the system insists that it wants something different for its life, right? That was what was coming up this morning. Something here should be different right now. For whom? Like really being in this understanding that everything is just a flow within consciousness. And so there is no subject that is looking at life as an object and saying they're living a better life than I am. Like that whole dialogue, who's having it if all there is a flow of life? And I have no answers to that. It's this here right now in the question, in the awareness that something is clinging to this idea that Cindy needs to get her car. It's only because Richard's here. Cindy needs to get her car back so she can have a different life, right? Like, where does that exist right now? I don't need a car right now. It's just it's a thought of separation is all it is in this moment. I don't know. That's where it's hitting whatever this is right now. Anna's got her hand raised. I think we should acknowledge that.
Thank you. May I repeat back to you what was just heard? There is no subject looking at life as an object. That really is super helpful. It's like the mind has created this idea that there's a me and a stuff out there, but really there's one thing, consciousness. Thank you.
And all I'm going to add to that is the activity that's going on. Like there's a real conscious activity, like right now. There is, well, where is she then? Because there's activity here that insists that what I am is not you. And so there's a very gentle, I accept that activity is happening and I'd love to meet you. That's sort of the way I get very kind and gentle. I was like, I'd love to meet you. Who are you that insists you're not Rana, for instance? I'd love to really, really get to know you. And then from that kind of space, I'm like, have this awareness of being willing to meet her, yet she doesn't exist. But I keep inviting her to show herself. Do you know what I mean? The mind says she doesn't exist. Well, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the experience because the seeking stops then in the flow. Is that?
Yeah, when we, like, the mind is the activity, right, of consciousness, and something that Aaron had said yesterday, consciousness assumes a costume of the mind, and mind assumes a costume of a body. And so, and we don't know that's fact, but it was the way that he explained his opinion about it. And that really fits for me here. That's where that illusion is all created. Consciousness thinks it's a mind. There's the veil. There's the first veil right there. So thank you.
And just so you know, the way that is informing me is that the consciousness is flowing through this dream character, i.e. the mind body. And because of the conditioning here, it creates a world. Barbara and then Richard. I think it maybe it's the same thing.
So are you saying that I am both the subject and the object?
Actually, no, I'm saying there is no I.
I'm just consciousness, I know, but where does subject and object come into the whole?
Well, they're in the standard dualistic world, Barbie is a subject looking at her husband, who is the current object. But when you turn around and go looking for the Barbie who's separate from that object, you're not going to be able, like with your heart, not with your thinking mind. You go ahead and be in this space. You got an A+ from Kendall, Rana. Be in this space of searching for the subject who insists that there is an object separate from her. That's the inquiry that leads to the direct experience. You just be in the, all right, I'm willing to find where is this I who is not him.
So in reality, there's no object.
That's the hypothesis. Richard.
Morning, everyone. I love this discussion. I did when Pat read that paragraph. I went, "What the hell?" I had to think about it, and as you shared, I realized that I'm at a place right now in my experience where I'm trying to wrap my mind around the whole concept of business. There's only ising or isness. And so whatever I'm experiencing in this moment is what is. Now, it may be as Richard, both an infinite self and a separate self. I'm experiencing that at the same time. I'm knowing every one of you because I hear you speak, look at you, I hear your thoughts because you're putting them in the chat, or so you're part of this experience in the present moment. And although you appear separate, I know we're only one, appearing as separate entities. So whether your bodies or not, or minds or not, I don't know. I don't know what any of this is. All I know is this is my experience at this moment. And I'm not sure I understand what that is, but it just is. So I'm working on this.
Or
Love you
not.
all.
I mean, I love what you just shared, because when we're just being in the experience of the present moment, we're not trying to understand it. The moment we start thinking about what is right now, we're no longer in the present moment. You have to stop thinking to be in the present moment, which is like kind of crazy. The thinking mind hates that, right?
I want to understand. The mind wants to understand from moment to moment what is experiencing. And rather, I'm trying to let that go and just be the experience. Just be in the experience and not think about what it means or what it was or what it will be, or just be present. And that's, I don't know if it's difficult as a word, but it's uncomfortable at times to try to be in the present moment and not think about this or that.
Yep.
That's where I think about those cue words that we use. Like, I think it's Angelo DeLullo uses thinking, to get you out of it. And I thought, wouldn't is be a good word too? Isness, or ising, just something to break that cycle that's going on. Thank you, Richard.
You were concerned, Sandra, about missing a lot of the reading so far. I think we got 8 sentences so far. Not much. Hey, Nadega. You'll have to unmute this so we can hear you. There
Okay.
you go.
It took a minute. I had another phone call. I just want to say, first of all, I just love being here. It is just the best thing ever. It is, and it's just all I want because it's what I am. And it's been so amazing. So my ex-husband, he's been in prison. He's actually he gets out in maybe like a month or so. I don't know. And it's been so, and he's coming back to live with me, but it's going to take a year. He has to do whatever he has to do. It just takes a year before he can. He has to do what they say. It's just been, so my family, my mom is okay with him, but my sisters want nothing to do with him. And so he cheated on me pretty rampant. And I didn't tell my family until like when it was just, I finally just told them. And then actually, so then, and I was the one, I was like, and so I decided, okay, and I did it. I broke it off with him. I was breaking it off with him. And we had 2 cars. They were mine. I paid for it. And so I decided I wanted to have, I don't know, I was guided. My spiritual counselor, whatever, guided me. And so I put my one of my cars in somewhere, and then I took the other one. And when he saw what I was doing, and that he was going to be carless, he was irate, and he got a brick and threw it at my window or whatever. I was like leaving. And then I called the police, and he's never been harmful ever to me, ever. But and here I am. It's like I'm saying it's my fault. I pushed him past his limit. Again, that's me saying it's my fault. And my family supported me. So they want nothing to do with him. And so when I told them that I was going to go back with him or see what, they stopped talking. They pretty much cut me off. And then I was able to, and then I don't remember what I said, but anyway, I said that didn't happen or whatever. So it's just so amazing for me to see all of this with awareness. And just let everything just be as it is. So it's actually kind of funny.
Thank you so much, Nadega. We're placing it in this consciousness, and we'll see what happens as we continue to read. Yeah,
I love being here. Thank you so much.
love you here. Should we see what's next on this page?
Let's see.
All right.
When we self-inquire and directly experience what we are, we find no thing that we can call me. There is a stillness, of course, a sense of I am here, which is more subjective. We must come to see that if we have believed that we are a separate being, that we are really still seeing ourselves as an object. We can perceive our sense of being someone because it is made up of thoughts, emotions, memories, dreams, and expectations. These are constantly changing and coming and going. This sense of self fits the category of, quote, object more than subjective awareness because it disappears completely in deep meditation, in deep sleep, when unconscious or under anesthetic. What we have come to call, quote, me is really an object that is coming and going every night and day and disappears each time we are not thinking about anything. We can recall also from the previous chapter that most of what we call me is made up of thoughts about other people that we think are separate from us.
Are we stopping there, or you want to get to the
I
end of
mean,
the
if somebody wanted to say anything, but because the paragraph ended, but I'll go.
Well, I am curious. I unshared for a second. I am curious how that answers Barbie's earlier question, or did it? Or do you want to? Oops, you'll have to unmute. There you go.
Okay, I get that I'm the subject and my husband's the object. But there's really no object then, right?
Well, what she was indicating in this paragraph was that who you think you are is actually an object, not the subject.
I'm the object of
Well,
everything.
Barbie, what you take to be a Barbie who is married to your husband, who has this ache, who has this pain, is actually an object in awareness. And how do we know that? Because it comes and goes. And what we are in truth never comes and goes. So what she was pointing to was not identifying Barbie as the subject, as the object, but identify what you think you are as the subject. And awareness, which is everywhere, is aware of all that you say you are, which is continual from that perspective, is continuously changing.
I'm starting to understand. Okay, thank you.
Truly subjective experiencing is the only thing we can be sure of when we self-inquire. There is a sense, I am here, and we cannot find exactly where that is located. If you really look right now, you will see that you cannot find where that sense of you stops. It has no boundaries. That means you go on forever. I will say that again because it may seem so amazing and it may be hard to comprehend at first. If you cannot find where you end, then you must go on forever and you must be the unlimited being.
Anybody else right now using their mind to look?
Let's talk about this. This was so helpful. Doing some meditations with Helen, when I close my eyes and get really still, and I feel the edges of my body, say where the butt is sitting on the chair. If I notice long enough, there is no sense of where that begins and ends. And the same happened as she had us look at a plant or an object in the room. And she said, instead of looking at the object, look at the space around the object. And so the object is included within that space, and none of it is separate. It's all, you can't figure out where it ends. So with my eyes closed, I have had the direct experience that I go on forever. Eyes open is a little more difficult, or has been up until this point, which doesn't exist. Thank you.
Well, if anyone wants to play this game, because this is where I was just now, like, the mind tells me that Cindy's sitting on a chair in Grand Island listening to Rana, who's sitting in South Carolina. And Rana's speaking about her experience, and Cindy's receiving that. So what I was doing while Rana was speaking and Cindy was receiving was trying to find, opening to find, where did that go from Rana sharing to Cindy receiving? Where was the turning point? And what is happening here in the stillness is I've been having this experience more and more when I look, where when I'm listening to someone in this room or to an audio or something, and I get into that space of just that inquiry, right? I can feel energetic. This is pretty cool, Richard, when we talk about energy densities, right? I can feel, it's almost like I could see the words coming here. And there's a place around here that it's not a force field because it comes in, I could hear it, but I could literally feel somewhere around here where there's something pushing against it being all one. Does that make sense? It's like almost like this sense of a Cindy who's not you is in some sort of invisible bubble. But it's permeable, right? I can hear the words. And then every once in a while that bubble sort of drops and there's this sense that the words are just here and they're arising, which actually works really well with raindrops and crickets and birdsong, right? This sense that there's no distance, which is different than when a friend is sharing. But I was in that space, and I don't know if you are experiencing it now as I'm speaking. Can you be in this space of just where does this idea that you're listening to Cindy end and you're receiving the words begin? Hey, Barbie.
I want to thank you, Rana, for what you said. I understand it more because I had that experience once or twice. I'm in meditation. I could feel my butt on the chair, but I wasn't there or whatever. I mean, so I am unlimited, but it was so, I understand more when people share their experiences because I know that I've had them. And I could understand that more because I experienced what you had. If that makes sense. But thanks.
Shall we keep going?
I wanted to say that this practice of looking for your edge and not being able to find it is a really fantastic thing because you really just can't find the edge. And then the other thing is that I recently was struck by a deeper understanding of a sentence that gets repeated and repeated and repeated in the Course, which is that ideas leave not their source. So, I, just not the little eye, but the big eye, this thing that has no edges, has not left its source, which is the mind of God, and God is one. Therefore, there's no edge because there's only the one, and we, we all. I was thinking the other day, I used to poo-poo these people who wanted their weird pronouns and they put it under their names and the letters, and I was thinking, yeah, but I think I'll change mine to we. And we and they and them and that kind of stuff, because yeah, that sounded like it could make sense to me, but yeah, this ideas leave not their source, so I have not left my source, and I can't find my edge. So what does that mean? Izzy? Yeah, right.
Hello, my friends.
Hey, so I've decided to drop this whole thing I have about privacy and YouTube and all that stuff. So yeah, thanks. My heart is pounding as I do this and say this, but here we are. It's what I'm being led to do. And Pat, I love that. Yes, let's institute that one. And I wanted to comment, Cindy, you said, because this is what I feel like I'm doing right now. Cindy, you were talking about, you comment on something that Helen said in the video about completely stepping out of the known into the unknown. And I recently saw a video, a Delulu video, and he showed a clip of the Indiana Jones movie where he was stepping. Have you seen this?
It's my favorite scene in any movie ever, so I know what you're about to say.
Okay, so Indiana Jones is stepping off this ginormous cliff that has no bottom to it. There, you can't see it, it's miles down. And that is what Angelo was talking about, that is a perfect analogy of what it is we're doing here. We're stepping out from the unknown from the known into this complete place of knowing and not knowing. And it's really struck me and stuck with me because that's it. It's wonderful to have a visual of what it is that we're doing here. So anyway, that's all. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, that was Indiana Jones has been my favorite for a very, 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 very long time. And that particular scene when he's in search of the chalice, which turned out to just be a wooden cup and not one of the fancy ones, required that he trusts that if he step out to this cliff, the bridge would appear. But he had to step first, then the bridge appeared, not the other way around.
Right. And that's exactly what it is with us. What we're trying to do, we're bucking the system in a really big way and trusting that we're going to land in love. So
I was talking to my sister this morning. I finally told my family I have this nonprofit, and they're like, "How did that happen?" I was like, "I have no idea. I have no idea. I just literally don't know what's next. I know what I'm doing next is filling out another New York State form and walking it to the post office and mailing it today, so New York State knows who I am. But then I don't know what's like. Guidance only tells you what, like, guidance invited you to turn your video on and speak while we're recording, but you don't know what's gonna happen next.
right. By the way, I wanted to comment on that. I always thought that getting a nonprofit was a humongous deal, and it took a long, long time. So when you said you got it so soon, that's amazing. Good. Yeah. Nice.
Well, just because it's spirit led.
Right. Exactly.
All right, we got 9 minutes. Is there a share, or do we want to read some more? Or
I want to read some more.
Okay. Here we go.
Yes, this next sentence is fabulous. You are the infinite self, which is everywhere all the time. You are the infinite self, which is everywhere all the time. But you have become so used to perceiving yourself as being limited and only located here. So can you be the infinite self and go on forever, but have a lot of holes inside you where the objects of your perception seem to be? Is there a gap in your infinite subjective self where your brother is? Is he separate to your awareness? This is just exactly what Cindy was. Can you even have a gap in an infinite being? No, you cannot, because it would not be infinite then. There can be no places you are not, and there can be no places you are absent. All these, quote, other beings are you, and all these objects are also you. There is nothing outside of you.
Let's stop. So the question that keeps coming here, someone said this could be very uncomfortable. I don't remember who it was, but there is a lot of discomfort that Cindy, the separate self, keeps walking around in because something larger than the dream character is quietly holding her while she complains about her life without attempting to fix the life. And it's subtle. It literally is. It's as subtle as getting off the phone with my mother and not buying into what the conditioned self is telling me about her and where she was. And as I'm watching that and not feeding it from this larger space of knowing that she is me, something here gets really upset because literally this system's history is being questioned. Does that make sense? I mean, it's that kind of subtle. Literally just getting off the phone with my mother and realizing that something turns on even while I'm on the phone that says, well, this is, even when I was talking to my sister this morning, there was, well, this is the way she's always been. She always acts this way. As we continually talk about how important this Amazon, for those that were here that earlier in the week, the Amazon delivery chaos and I'm sitting here realizing that who's in agreement to this is how she's always been, and aren't I glad that I'm not living in that same kind of fear? Where does that sit in this teaching? And if I sit outside recognizing everything is me, this conditioned response to a so-called other is being challenged. And it has a little fit. Ron.
So this last paragraph is so helpful, especially like, can there be little holes where the objects pop up? Like, here's the phone. That's not me. There's a little hole right there in the infinite, right? And then to add on, looking at Livy, she's not a hole. She's not a gap in. And so something dropped where there is nothing outside of you. Something is percolating right there because there can't be any little holes where other shit is popping up. Oh, sorry. Other stuff is popping up.
As I'm
I feel
listening
very
to
giggly right now.
The idea that Cindy is an object in awareness, Rana is an object in awareness, Livy is an object in awareness,
Right.
means that I'm not a Cindy looking at others. There's a consciousness and all of these things are rising, but they're all temporary. How do I know that they're temporary? Well, Helen was talking about it. Where are they while Cindy's sleeping?
And it's in it. And what it is extremely dynamic. So, I mean, things are moving and shaking all the time. Stuff is popping up everywhere all the time, but it's all None of it's outside of what I truly am. It feels like it's outside of the Rana character, but that's when now my perception has shifted into thinking I'm an object. Because that character is actually an object that doesn't exist. Because there's no me.
Well, except that the form does exist because there's no separation between the form and the
It's all
form.
one thing, though. It's all just, right? It's the big dance. It's
You're
what I
bringing
can
up-
see and what I can't see. There's so much going on that the body's eyes don't see. Oh, I'm having a moment.
Well, you're right back to the video we watched, right? Beginning with this idea that all we are is form, to there's no such thing as form, to oh, there's nothing different between form and formless, it's all one, right? That was her pointing. And then there's no need to like as soon as you discuss it, there's no need to have the discussion because it's just the movement within.
The video was so right on for this particular reading. I love it. I can believe it.
There's something in here that's in awe of that because there was no searching, there was no effort in that showing up. Hey, Livy.
Hey, just real quick, and as y'all are talking, I'm thinking about a interview that I heard with Tom Petty, and Tom Petty said they were asking him about his songwriting, and he said, "I don't feel like I write these songs." He said, "They just come through me, and I'm the deliverer of them." And I just always love that, and that's kind of what this conversation is. I mean, words, even words, not just objects, but even words, even music, that's that's part of it as well. All the beauty, everything that leaves me breathless. But I just always loved him saying that he didn't feel like he could take ownership of his songs, because he said they come through me, and I'm the one that manifests them, basically. And I just love. And I had a similar experience, so I really related with that.
Songwriter that you are. Hey, Izzy.
So I'm always making up t-shirt aphorisms in my head and referring back to what Pat said. This is what I came up with. Yes, this identity of he, she, they lately. What if we were to identify as we? ? I may get it printed.
Then I would add to it, we got to use the singular verb form. So it'd be we is.
Well, it feels like now I'm going back to the movie about Bob Marley. Didn't the whatever the tradition that Bob Marley arises from, they don't use the I pronoun at all. Everything's we, right? So it was they only use that.
To them, the I means everything. The I is God, everything.
All right. It's been an hour, if you believe in linear time. I'll get this up today. I love us very, very much. And we meet again on Monday. Though if you want to hang out with me before, I am leading the Gathering and Awakening Together on Sunday, and Ron is reading. So that'll be fun. Let me stop the recording.